Start. Yes, just a little bit late today. Do. What's that? Do. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
No?
She does it all the time.
Oh, is my voice weird?
No, you sound
She
good.
does it all the time. Sound good on my side.
I don't know about the stream. I will check.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. I just feel like my voice sounds weird. Maybe I'm crazy.
I don't know about the stream. I will check.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. I just feel like my voice sounds weird. Maybe I'm... it's fine. All right. Perfect. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to East of Anime, a podcast where we talk about, surprise, anime. Ta-da! Hello, okay. Welcome, I am the Big Bad Moon. I'm one of your hosts. Right over here on the right is Alan 3D. She's one of your other hosts. And just below us is Troa, the ever elusive Troa, who is going to be your other host today.
Ever elusive.
Yes. He occasionally can be snapped in photos, much like the Bigfoot.
If you're lucky.
You got to keep your camera ready, usually in the back of Hallen's screen. But yes, so welcome. Today we are going to be talking about Porco Rosso, which is a wonderful, beloved film by Miyazaki in 1992. Might talk about some other stuff Miyazaki did. But yes, Porco Rosso. That's what we're talking about today. Welcome, thanks for joining us. Helen, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. My kids went skiing with my husband. It was a good day.
Oh, nice. That does sound fun. I don't like skiing though. I think it's because I'm from Colorado, and
I mean, that's fair.
I think there is not an insignificant portion of Coloradans who just don't really care for it. I don't know why.
I think most of my high school didn't even go to the mountains.
Yeah, that's fair. That is fair. I do love going to the mountains. Where was your high school?
Denver.
Okay.
Kennedy. JFK.
Okay. That's fair. Because I was going to say, was your high school in the mountains?
In the mountains.
I figured I'd ask. Draw, how was your day today? Did you go skiing with someone?
I did get to ski this time. I usually don't get to ski, but I got to this time. So that was nice.
Nice. Okay. Skiing or
I'm
snowboarding?
exhausted. Skiing.
Skiing?
I can do both, but I like skiing.
Why do you like skiing more?
I think I keep doing it. I feel like I have more control.
Oh, okay. That is fair.
Started skiing when I was 2.5.
Right. That makes sense. Interesting. Very interesting. I guess I haven't gone for ages, but I used to only snowboard. Because I don't know. That's what the cool kids did.
Cool thing to
Maybe,
do, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I learned it in middle school, during a middle school trip somewhere.
Get someday snowboarding. I can't ski, but
Well, hey, I guess it's the Colorado podcast today. But anyways,
represent the
exactly.
natives. The natives. Just saying.
Well,
Native Coloradans.
Speaking of anime, as a segue, Porco Rosso. There's no skiing in Porco Rosso. Helen, what is there in Porco Rosso, though?
Seafaring planes. And they're amazing.
Seafaring planes. What did you think of Porco Rosso? Because you've seen this before. Because this is
I have.
a Miyazaki film that is much beloved.
I felt like watching it way back when to now, I still loved it. I was impressed with, because, sometimes when you see something and then you go back and watch it, you're a little more critical. And I still was like, nah, it's solid.
Right.
It's really good.
Sure.
So I was very taken aback by its longevity.
Sure.
Its ability to age well. So, yeah.
That is fair. It does have a kind of classic tone to it. Very, very noir, kind of vaguely Casablanca tone to it, which is delightful in my opinion. Troa, what do you think of Porco Porco Rosso?
I really enjoyed it. I love how they only hinted at his curse,
right?
And he's the only pig person,
right? Totally. It's just this.
It's not really even a big deal. They're it just he
right.
is. They don't hate him for it. It just is. But and I love the point in time, the point in history that takes place, right after the Great War, right before World War II.
Oh yeah, totally. Oh yeah, that's it. What a fascinating point in history.
Right?
Love that, and it's this kind of interesting alternate history of the Mediterranean and the Adriatic, which is kind of awesome. But yeah, no, totally. Okay, so let's set this up for you if you haven't seen Porco Rosso, or if you have seen it a long time ago and you don't remember. So Porco Rosso takes place in the Adriatic Sea. This is in the Mediterranean. Am I wrong? Is my geography bad? I believe this is in the Mediterranean. Yeah, so in the Adriatic Sea, there's Italy and Greece and stuff like that. So basically, Porco Rosso, whose actual name is was it Mick? It starts with an M. Marco. Yeah.
Marco.
His actual name is Marco. But it's only hinted at. But some curse happened and it turned him into a pig. So he is a anthropomorphic pig. And people kind of treat him like a figurative pig as well, which is an interesting thing for his character. It's a little bit film noir. It's a little bit Casablanca. If you see those two things, or although Casablanca's noir, anyways. So Porco is an ex-pilot from the Italian Air Force during the First World War, the Great War. So this takes place in the 20s after the Great War is over, and we haven't gone into World War II yet. This is a very weird point in history. This is a fictional version of history in the Adriatic Sea where there are seaplane pirates, and it's kind of a land of adventure kind of thing. It's got a little bit of a piratey thing going on, where you're talking about the open sea and adventure and stuff like that. So it has a thing like that going on, which I think is a wonderful aspect of aircraft in that point in history. But Porco, he's a pilot that used to be in the Italian Air Force, and the Great War's over, and he has deserted the Italian Air Force because the government turned to a dictatorship, and he is kind of doing his own thing. He's a freelance pilot, I guess you'd say. Bounty hunter / mercenary. Mercenary, I think, is the word they use. So he is kind of being hired to do jobs. Usually it's defending from pirates. There is a woman who's his love interest, who owns a restaurant that's in the middle of the sea.
It's so cool.
Yeah. Again, she's he owns this restaurant. She's kind of like a lounge singer almost, and she actually literally is a lounge singer at one point where she sings in the lounge of her restaurant. So basically, Porco gets his plane all shot up, and he crashes, and he has to go get it repaired and fixed up. This is kind of the narrative of the story. He gets his plane shot up. This is what happens in the story. He gets his plane shot up, and he has to take it back to Italy where he's wanted so he can get it fixed up. And in the process, this young engineer, ends up designing his plane and building his plane, and she comes with him. And he's trying to earn back some money because he went broke. And there's a subplot of him kind of trying to so this is an interesting story because there are a lot of small plots in this story. I guess you could say the main plot that the story revolves around is the Porco being in love with this woman, this what was her name again? Gina. Yeah, Porco is in love with Gina, and so they're going to end up together. There's an American who's come to the Adriatic who's also a bounty hunter who also wants to marry Gina. And so the primary plot of the story is him, getting together with Gina, or falling, them being together, because Curtis, the American. So she's had several husbands, I think, and they were all pilots. Three husbands. They were pilots, and they all died. And so there's a kind of a wedge between Porco and Gina because of that situation, because they were all comrades. They were all like friends of his, and they all flew together. And so that's kind of the primary plot: is will Porco get with Gina? And then there's this what is his name? The American. Curtis. I'm going to keep asking over and over. Donald Curtis. So Curtis is kind of getting in the way because he wants to be with Gina, because he's like a weird, silly, romantic, like way overly romantic, like the stereotypical like American from the like 20s.
Of that, one of my favorite scenes that shows an example of that is when he meets Gina in the garden, and she's like, "Oh, you Americans, you guys don't like understand love. You fall in love so easily."
Right. Sure.
And like it's like so like
then he
reminiscing, because he does that. Yes. With Thea.
Oh, sure.
Theo.
Right.
The lady, yeah.
Because he's like a kid, right? Like, or he's probably he's not a kid. He's an adult. He sees this person, and he's like, I'm in love, and it's like that. Yeah. So classic, like overreactive, like American. Yeah. Someone said she calls him a little boy.
Oh yeah, she does. I forgot about that. In the first 10 minutes, I was like, this is so sexist, and then I was like, oh, it's supposed to be.
That's funny. But okay.
I was like,
oh, I see. That is funny. So that's the primary plot of the story. If you had to pick one, so this is an interesting film, and I think that I wonder, because Porco Rosso is not one of the more popular Miyazaki films, but I think for me it's one of my favorites. It's one of the less well loved ones, in my opinion, or in my experience. And I wonder if that's because of the way the story is constructed, because there's no big grand plot for the characters, or there's no big grand bad guy. There's like Curtis is a bad guy, and the pirates are kind of a bad guy antagonist, and there's the the Italian government is kind of the bad guy, because the Italian government's fascist and they want Porco's plane. So there's not really like a bad guy. Like there's no antagonist physically in the story. So the struggle of the story is Porco's struggle with himself, because everybody, like as I was saying, everybody kind of looks at him as a pig. He actually, what do they say? They call him a known womanizer a bunch of times throughout this story, but like there's never one instance in which he's like being a womanizer, like at all.
Minutes though is like, I don't remember what he said, but like he was like meh, and like even when he meets Theo, he's like a girl, but
sure,
he doesn't necessarily like, he doesn't follow through with it. He's like fine,
right? Yeah, sure. No, totally. Well, this is the 1920s, right?
Right.
So that's part of this is part of the shtick, and so there's that.
I think he says I'm a pig for a reason about his womanizing.
Yeah, he says it a lot too.
He does.
Like he references himself being a pig. It's like an excuse for everything he's doing.
Yeah, well, exactly. Well, and even when he's I think there's a lot of times where he gets kind of wrongly accused of things, or wrongly like told off about how bad he is, and he'll just say, "Well, I'm a pig. What do you expect?" Or they'll say like, "Oh, you just did this." Like he kind of, it's all the whole Adriatic society expects him to be one way, and they call him a pig, and so he just is like, "Fine, I'm a pig. What can you do?"
Owns it.
Yeah, which is interesting because so there's a plot. So his personal character growth. Well, okay. So tell me, I'm curious. Between you guys, Porco's character growth over the course of the story. go ahead. You want to unpack that because he has a lot of character growth over the course of this movie.
There's definitely, it's like he starts out one way, and then he opens up to Theo because when he meets Theo, that's like a huge change for him. He's like, fine, and then she does an amazing job, and then she's like, I'm coming with you, and he's like, well, that's not gonna work, and she's like, no, I'm your hostage, it'll work. And he's like, I'll just take it out of your salary.
Right, yeah.
That was funny. So then being on this journey with her changed him,
right?
And
absolutely.
Then he has another change when he gets in the situation where he was gonna die, and she totally changed the pirate's mind. She's like, I've always looked at you guys as honorable. You guys are honorable, right? You're honorable pirates. And they're like, yeah, we are.
Right. No, totally, yeah.
And then he has another, like, obstacle, because now he has to be in this battle with Curtis again, after getting his plane killed the first time by Curtis because his engine wasn't working.
Right.
And then we have that battle, and then the gun jams, and then the other guy ran out of bullets. So then they're just throwing shit at each other over the plains, which is hilarious. And then they have to fight again because they get down to the ground and they're just fist punching. And that's when he finds out, like, Gina's been waiting for him. And it's like a revolutionary thought to him. Like, he never thought she liked him. I don't think he thought she liked him like that.
Right.
I think he just thought they were close. I think he liked her.
Sure.
But I think he was setting those boundaries. Like, I don't know if she likes me and everybody likes her, so I'm just gonna...
Oh, and she's his friend's widow. Yeah, his friend died, and he was married to his friend.
Right. At the beginning of the film, the first scene where him and Gina talk, they speak, she says they finally found the remains of her husband, her last husband.
Okay.
Yeah, they finally found the remains off in some island or something somewhere.
Yep.
So there's this find. It's been 2 or 3 years or something like that since he disappeared, and they had finally found it. And that was that was their first conversation in the movie. So here's an interesting thing. So do you guys, and I asked our audience as well, do you guys know what a character foil is? Helen, you probably do.
I don't.
I've heard the term.
So a foil is a character, or it doesn't have to be a character necessarily, but usually it's a character that is the kind of the opposite character to another character.
Yeah. Okay.
So when you look at the traits, the kind of personality that the character has, when you look at Porko, and then you look at Curtis, was it Curtis?
It was Curtis, yeah.
Is Curtis? But think about the way they act and what they do in this film. Is Curtis the foil to Porko? Because when you think about this, Porko assumes that Gina is in no way interested in him. Doesn't want to pursue her. Is in love with her, but doesn't want to pursue her. Doesn't want to get involved in that. Thinks mostly about her. Curtis assumes that, of course, Gina wants to be with me because I'm Curtis. I'm going to be a famous actor, is actively chasing after her to a ridiculous degree. There are a bunch of other traits that these two characters have that really oppose each other. They're seeking of glory. They're seeking of fame. Their past, and that Curtis doesn't really have a past, and he's trying to build this big grand name for himself, and Porco really doesn't want to deal with anybody. He is trying to forget about his past.
Opposite, yeah.
All that crazy stuff happened before. So when you look at these two characters, they wonderfully mirror each other
I agree.
as a foil character.
Yeah, I completely agree, because Curtis is like, even in love, he's different.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Like, he's like, I want this, and they have that last fight at the end where they're punching each other is so beautiful because they're equally matched,
right.
really. I mean, they're just different, but they show that they mirror each other in that moment, because they're both like, they both end up knocking each other out.
Right. Well, and when you think about,
Gina's the one who calls out to him like, "Hey, we gotta go."
and to talk about the difference in those things, when in that last final fight where they've landed and they're betting and whatnot, and they're having a fist fight. What are the characters in that fight fighting for? What is Curtis fighting for?
Theo, he wants to marry somebody.
He's
desperate for love, and she's beautiful, and she's an engineer.
He's fighting for himself, right?
Oh yeah.
For what he wants.
Okay,
and what's Porko fighting for?
He's fighting to protect people.
He's fighting to protect Thea and save her from this situation, and help her get out, and also pay his bill, which is a nice byproduct of that.
Right.
But this is
foremost, it's for her.
First and foremost, it's for her, and that's in his motivation. This is what makes this plot, and the plot. This is part of the romance plot with Gina, but the last fight where they have the fist fight kind of changes over, and it's not focused around Gina. It's focused around what was their engineer's name?
The engineer Theo.
Theo. It's focused around Theo because of Curtis switching and deciding he loves Theo and the deal that they've made. It wouldn't have made sense to keep it around the other character. But it perpetuates it. This is the main plot for the story, and so you see those two characters mirror each other all along the way, which makes it wonderful to watch because. You're the whole time, even though we don't see Curtis for the majority of the movie, we see him, he goes to Italy and he has to get his plane fixed, and he has to figure out with Theo get the plane design and stuff. Lot of stuff happens in this movie. It actually covers a lot of ground, kind of like some of the Star Wars films, in my opinion. They cover like a lot of territory, and you're like, oh yeah, how did we have time to go to all those planets? But yeah, so super well constructed. As far as the plot goes, as far as the characters go, and as far as the narrative goes, and very well written. I have very little in the way of criticism for how it's written.
I love the music. The music was fun.
The music is fun. It has a wonderful classic tone. So in the comments we did have somebody ask about why he's a pig. That's an interesting question.
Because they never answer this.
Right.
My theory is it's self-inflicted. He felt so guilty over the other people dying that I think he was like hoping he would die too.
Right.
I think he was at that low point, and it was like, well, you're still alive. And I think he kind of self-inflicted himself because he felt like a pig.
Right. That's
doing that to them. So
that's interesting.
My theory.
No, totally. You know what? That narratively, that's very reasonable, because this is, and we get this when he has this flashback where he goes above the clouds and he sees all the fighter pilots up there that have died, and he does not go up with him. He's the only one that survives, and so all of his friends are dead, and he has survived, and he's a pig maybe because that's how he sees himself.
Right. Well, and he said he felt selfish, and he wanted them to live.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. In this flashback scenes, he says as much. Like he is the basically saying he's a horrible person because he is the only one that made it out, and none of them did. And so why is he a pig? Is it because that's how he sees himself, and that's how society sees him? And at the end, when he And again, this is great. It's great that they leave it up to interpretation.
I agree.
In the end, he gets a kiss as the plane is flying away from Theo. Kisses him, and then they take off in the end. And then it is suggested that he is no longer a pig anymore. And this is after he has fought for Theo, and they've had the fist fight, and the story's over and whatnot. And she also referenced this earlier when she said, "Hey, maybe if I kiss you, you'll turn back into a human, and like a prince, like a frog prince or whatever." Yeah. So it's referenced earlier in the film. Then she does it, and then one of the characters says, "Wait, what happened to your face?" as if something has happened, what would happen to his face. So it's implied that he turns. They did just have the fist fight, right? But like the person who asked him that was the one he was in the fist fight with. So it's implied that perhaps he turned back into a human, and maybe that's part of his character arc, wherein he's done this thing. Yeah, exactly. They don't tell you. They leave it open. They don't tell you about
Gina either. They're like, and she's like, and that's my secret.
Right.
Like, you don't get to know.
Which is lovely, and so that's a lovely. I think that's a very classy move, is to just let the audience decide. But you know, if let's say for instance, at the end of this fight, and he gets this kiss from Theo, and because he is, you know, she's trying to convince him most of the time that she's with him that he's actually a good person. At the end of the fight with Theo, she leaves. She gives him a kiss, and she flies away. Is it because he can stop looking at himself that way, and he actually feels like a person again, because of the actions of the movie and his growth over the movie? Has he stopped seeing himself as a pig? And then you don't know, but that is an interesting way to look at it. I quite like it.
I think the reason I like how beautifully that ending is because, like, I feel like I've seen so many animes where I'm not satisfied.
Sure. Yeah.
And they try and do that, but I don't feel like they accomplish that well. Like, this film does that so beautifully.
Right. Totally. You know, and this is it's a thing. This is a thing that I feel with anime, with movies, with writing, and just in general. I think a lot of the time, the writer is afraid of ambiguity, or they're afraid to not tell the audience like exactly how everything happened. And this is, like, I think perfectly personified in the like ending of. Not that I'm saying Lord of the Rings is not a great movie / book / whatever, but like, you know, it tells you every single, like, ties up every little thread and tells you exactly what happens to everybody and whatnot. And I think there's a lovely. There's a beauty in just being like, just leaving it a little bit open, giving people some hints, and letting the audience decide what they think. I think it's underdone these days, especially in anime. Like, usually it's far too specific. A little bit of ambiguity, especially in the ending, I think is a beautiful thing, and I think it makes this movie a lot stronger. The ending, I thought, was very satisfying. It made it a lot stronger, just because they let you wonder. But it's very in a hopeful way. They don't let you wonder in like a sad way, which I've seen happen, and it's awful. Not necessarily awful from a writing perspective, but it's very sad. But this, it was lovely. Let's talk about the animation. Should we even talk about the animation, as this is a Miyazaki film?
Right.
This is the second. Is this the second ever Miyazaki film?
It's so good.
Yeah, it's really good.
You can see, like, he used the same character references for later movies too. You're like, oh hey, I recognize that same sort of character later in that other movie.
Oh yeah, totally. And for some reason, people turning into pigs.
One of the things I love about how Miyazaki films are his use of women. He's very like all the women from this guy come in, and they're the ones who work on the plane. And like, he does that with Princess Mononoke too. And like, he's very equal, but like, he shows women like being tough, being like just as good, equal, even in society that doesn't accept that. And I think that's really cool.
Well, and this is also a wonderful. This is a wonderful instance of something like that, because this makes so much sense for the story, because all the men are off to war. All the men have been inducted into the Italian military, and so there is nobody to work on the plane but all of the women. And I think that's lovely. I think that's a lovely culturally contextual bit of story building, and it's just fun. It's also funny how all of these women are his family. Like, it's his niece, it's his cousin.
Know, like, they're Italians.
Yeah, they're Italians. Everybody's related.
My cousin's lit.
Yeah. That was very funny. That was a really good scene. But and going back to this, the animation's amazing. It's a Miyazaki film. So I'd say one thing I will say: there are a couple of times where the frame count feels a little bit low. That's a budgetary thing.
I noticed that as
yeah,
well.
couple places, especially with a lot of people in cities, things moving slow, where the frame count is a little bit like, woo, yeah, it's a little bit, feels a little, not choppy, but it doesn't feel super smooth.
It doesn't feel natural.
Mm-hmm. I think
I'm like, oh, they're not breathing.
Right, yeah. No, all of the stuff with the planes, I think, because that's the important stuff.
Oh yeah.
For,
I think it's what toss the budget at.
Yeah, exactly.
They're amazing.
Exactly, and they looked wonderful. Also, as a side note, I was saying this earlier. I think so. I found I've loved this film for a long time, because noir planes, like, that's awesome. But I've seen people who've built RC versions of Porco's plane, which I believe is like the Spirit of the Adriatic or something like that. I don't know what it's called. But they have built RC versions of this plane, and that's great. That's awesome. But that means if you can build an RC version, you could build a full-size version of this plane.
Nobody has done this.
Wouldn't that be the coolest thing ever? Like, okay, sorry. I had to just, like,
I'm
throw that out there.
nervous.
Like, if I ever went somewhere and somebody had, like, a full-scale, like, replica of Porco's plane, I could die happy, like, on the spot. That would be amazing. Moving on. Animation was great. Music was really good. Fit really well. Helped the tone a lot.
For French, so.
Oh, sure.
Throw some French at me, and I'm like.
Oh my gosh, this is wonderful. Yeah. No, totally. But yeah, good music, good animation. As far as the voice acting goes, great. I think the voice acting was wonderful. I think the cast was really good too. I was when you look at the voice cast, because
the cast list, I love that back too at the end.
It's really impressive. The American cast list anyway is really impressive. Bunch of big names in there. And
Michael
Keaton, yeah, I think it's Porco, right?
Yep.
Which is, you can't get better than that, right? Well, no, Porco. He's perfect for Porco.
Let's say Curtis's voice at first was really jarring.
Sure.
It's like, he's an American, because, like, I'm an American, and I don't sound like that.
Hey, you're not an American from 1920, though.
That's fair. But they do make a reference to this. They are like, oh, hey, Tex. They call him Tex.
Right.
Like Texan. So I was like, okay, fine. I can fly with that.
I can go with that. If he's from Texas, I don't mind.
Right.
That's quite funny. But yeah, so the voice acting was great. Again, I thought the writing was great. Trella, tell me, what are you have any other extraneous thoughts on Porco Rosso that maybe don't fit into any of those categories, or that maybe do? Because there's I mean, obviously it's a story that has a lot of kind of sub stuff going on, and not a lot of there's Sauron's not trying to destroy the world, Darth Vader's not trying to conquer the galaxy. Most of the struggle is for the
fascist Italians rising up over the horizon, but Porco's like, meh,
right. It's almost like a subplot, like the fascist Italians. It almost doesn't matter. Pardon me. But yeah. So, Helen, what do you have any specific thoughts on Porco?
I liked how you brought up the fascist Italians, because it's like a theme, and I like that he's still friends with the guy in the Air Force, and so he's like got a leg up, kind of, because like otherwise they might be a serious problem. But he's always like, I found out it is fine.
Right? Yeah.
Even
I like how he I know the pirates want to kill him, but like even in the beginning, he's like, hey, I don't want to kill you guys or destroy you guys.
Right.
I'm gonna let you keep enough loot to fix your plane. It's kind of like you're keeping me employed too.
Totally, yeah. No.
So they end up kind of being his friends.
That was very funny. Yeah, but they also hate him.
Yeah. It was to kill him, but
right. No, totally. Yeah.
Well, I like how the pirates are like, shoot him, and he's like, he's not gonna shoot him. He doesn't shoot people. He just shoots their engines.
Right. Yeah. No. Totally.
And so the pirate wants him to. He's like, do it. And then he's like, he's not gonna do it.
Oh yeah, no, totally. The pirates were a wonderful part of the film. I thought that was.
Seeing them older too.
Right at the end.
And they're
like, yeah, they're old, but they're.
Oh right, I remember that. Yeah, how they're right.
Yeah, it was a cute toss at it.
Right.
I like how Fio kind of did the end too. Like Fio was the narrator to wrap it all up.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, that worked really well too, because I think a major part of the second half of the movie was a lot about her story.
Yeah.
Oh, who's the narrator at the beginning? Is there a narrator at the beginning? I mean, I think is there
Porko.
Porco's the narrator at the beginning.
Yeah, it's kind of like his thoughts.
Sure.
He's not even talking. It's just like running through his head when it shows it.
Which is also super noir.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. It's a tough one on this one, but is there a best girl? You know what? I think the angry pirate captain for me is best girl.
Mama Ito.
Is that his name? Mama Ito? Yeah.
Mama.
Mama Ito. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me he's definitely best girl because delightful human.
Best waifu though.
Grandpa.
Waifu. That's a tough one.
Fio's grandpa.
Grandpa Piccolo. That's my vote.
Grandpa Piccolo. Yeah, that's true. That is true. Okay, I could deal with that. Grandpa Piccolo. Best.
I like how Porco's like, I'm taking my business elsewhere when we found out Fio's repairing it, and he didn't even stop writing. Grandpa just kept writing down what he was doing. Like it didn't even matter.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, they've been doing this for ages.
Leaving.
Yeah. That's delightful.
And
absolutely.
They actually make a cue on that too, because Gina's like, "Why don't you just go somewhere else? Why are you putting your life at risk by going to Milan?" And he's like, "I don't like anyone else." And so that's why he goes.
Right. Yeah, totally.
And we are like that as humans. We we're like
make really silly decisions based on that. But hey, it works out, you know. Okay.
But it was nice they didn't over-explain it. Because I know other animes who would be like, "Oh, we have to explain exactly why he's going to Piccolo and blah 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 blah." It's like,
totally. He just wants to go there. That's what he wants. Yeah. No, I agree. It's awesome. Okay. So, let's real quick. Any final thoughts on Porco Rosso? Helen.
If you haven't seen it, watch it.
If you haven't seen it, watch it. Who would you recommend this to?
I feel like it has a pretty wide audience.
That's fair.
Like I mean, we all have had to take history. I mean, so I feel like it could really connect with most people. And the self-doubt, or even like the Texan who wants to be famous.
Right, totally.
It has a lot of things that I think people would latch on to.
if you have.
I don't know who I would just tell people to watch.
That's fair. That is fair.
If you like anime, watch it, definitely. And if you don't like anime, give it a try.
If you like Miyazaki films and you haven't seen Porco Rosso, you have to go see Porco Rosso. Because it is, I think, personally, for me, one of the best Miyazaki films. Or one of the most enjoyable Miyazaki films. I suppose we could do a comparison where we literally stack them up and decide. But I don't think I want to do that. Anyways, Troa. Who would you recommend this to?
I don't know if I'd recommend it to first-time anime watchers.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Fair. Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Like that subtext. But especially people who like history. You know, anyone really interested, like between the Great Wars and everything too.
Oh yeah.
You know, there's people like them especially, or people who like airplanes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No. I get behind that. Yeah. So I guess if I were to recommend this movie, I agree. I think I don't think I would give this to a first time watcher, and I think I wouldn't do that because the pig thing is a little weird, and I could see a first-time anime watcher being weirded out by the pig thing. Also, it's a little bit. It's paced in a different way. It's not an action movie. If someone who's like Avengers is their favorite movie, might not like Porco Rosso.
Too slow for him.
If you liked Casablanca, and you want to watch anime, I might recommend it to you as a first time watch. as long as you can get, I think probably you can get past the pig thing. It's such a minor thing in the story. It's not really talked about. He just, like, people call him a pig, and he says, yeah, I'm a pig. What did you expect? So, if you like history, if you like planes, somebody who likes old movies and wants to get into anime, if you've already seen anime, if you like Miyazaki films, I would recommend it to you. If you, if you watch anime at all and you like older films, I would recommend it to you. If you're in any way, if you've already seen anime and you in any way want to watch any Miyazaki films, I would recommend it to you. But I would say that it is maybe, I guess I would call it slower, although I don't know if I would technically say it's slow, because I think it's written well, and I think if a movie is slow, that means it's generally not written in a way that is conducive to the audience's. Anyways. A lot of people I would recommend this to. It's a really good film. Okay, so any more thoughts, Alan? Thoughts, Troy?
The Adriatic Sea is between Italy and the Balkans.
So yes,
it's actually not even a very big area.
Nope, absolutely not. So that is basically there's Italy, and then just over to the east there's Greece, and then there's the Balkans. And it's so in there. So it's in the Mediterranean for you Americans that don't know where the Balkans are. The east side of the Mediterranean, which is that way. Okay. So yes, Porco Rosso. Wonderful film. Go see it.
Absolutely.
10 out of 10. Or yeah, I don't number of views don't mean anything. Yeah, so Miyazaki films. This is interesting. Porco Rosso, it's not I think I very briefly said it was like the second Miyazaki film. That's not true. Miyazaki films are really great. If you haven't seen Miyazaki films, I definitely recommend go see them. But Porco Rosso, I think, was one of the earlier Miyazaki films. The first Miyazaki film. We're gonna get into a little random fun Miyazaki trivia. The Studio Ghibli. I don't even remember how I used to say it. I used to say it in one way.
I don't know.
Studio Ghibli. I don't remember. Doesn't matter. Miyazaki has clarified what it was called. I think it was Ghibli. Studio Ghibli. No, Studio Ghibli. I think it was Ghibli.
I think it's Ghibli.
We're not gonna get into it. He clarified. Go look it up. So, the first Studio Ghibli film that was ever made was Nausicaa in the Valley of the Wind in 1989, I believe it was.
84.
Was it 80? Was that the comic or was that the movie? I think the movie was 89.
Oh, that's probably the comic, yeah.
So this was the comic Nausicaa in the Valley of the Wind. Miyazaki had made as a manga earlier in his career, and then I believe it was 89, they finally made it into a feature film. First Studio Ghibli film. I think it was a pretty big success, and that kind of catapulted them, and they made a bunch of other films, Castle in the Sky, a few other things we won't talk about. There was a TV show, and they made Porco Rosso, I think, in 1992 or 1993. Really early film. Wonderful film. Nausicaa in the Valley of the Wind, also wonderful. I think they had a lot of time to work on that and what the story was. There were some other films I thought were kind of mediocre. There were some classic ones in there, like My Neighbor Totoro.
The Fireflies, I cried.
Yeah.
That's fair. I think, was that like 95 or 96?
88.
Was it?
Yep.
That wasn't 88 because that was before Studio Ghibli was a thing.
Well, they have it.
Well, I was looking at their wiki.
Yeah.
Original release. So it says 88.
Maybe in Japan.
Was there a comic?
I'm on the actual films. I was on the comic.
Yeah,
I'm on the
says
film
feature
section
films.
now. Feature films.
So,
Nausicaa
let's
says
see.
84.
Porco Rosso's 92. So yeah, that was right.
Yeah. I never saw Ocean Waves. I don't even know what that is.
Kiki's was 89.
Okay, hang on. Director.
Ooh. They came out with one last year called Earwig and the Witch.
Huh.
Right? December of this last year, so very recently.
I don't remember. Anyways, so he made a bunch of films. They made a bunch of films. They did TV shows.
I like Kiki's Delivery Service. My Neighbor Totoro.
Also a classic, My Neighbor Totoro. A lot of good stuff. And then a little bit later in the late 90s and early 2000s, they started throwing out the big ones like Howl's Moving Castle, Spirited Away, Princess Mononoke, all the ones that everybody saw. Some of the early films, though, like Nausicaa in the Valley of the Wind, that is one of my favorites, and Porco Rosso is one of my favorites. And I think there's maybe a couple other ones that were really, really good. But it is interesting because watching some of these, because we had a year where me and my brother just went through all of the Miyazaki films.
That's what Troa.
We did that back when Netflix was shipping out DVDs.
Oh wow, that's funny. That is very funny. I remember that.
Let's do all the Ghiblis.
Right, and so it was a very interesting. It was a very interesting time. They were Netflix giving out DVDs.
Oh my gosh, we lost a couple. And then we found them years later, and we're like, "Oh, it's anime. We're not gonna ship it back. They don't want it at this point."
Exactly. But we went through all the Miyazaki films, and there are a bunch of them that are really well written, and there are a bunch of them that I think are horribly written. And actually, one of the most beloved ones, here's my unpopular opinion, probably, is My Neighbor Totoro is such a boring movie. And it's made for kids. It has a really great theme and like the makings of a really good plot, but it doesn't follow through on anything. It's incredibly charming. It's incredibly memorable, but the story doesn't go anywhere. And
I don't even remember the story.
Man,
I just know I loved it as a kid.
Go watch My Neighbor Totoro again.
I did recently.
Did you?
My kids loved it. But
right.
I agree. Like nothing happens really. I mean, the mom's still in the hospital. Mm-hmm. At the end,
nobody has any great revelations. Nobody has any
drama that happens is the little girl gets lost, so they're all freaking panicked.
Right, totally.
But that's like the only like intense moment because it's like, oh shit, where is she?
Right,
like, that is
totally
it.
It's weird because My Neighbor Totoro, one of the more beloved Miyazaki films, one of the most poorly written, like. Has a bunch of stuff in there. It could have been really good. I think this would be a great like second or third draft, and then they need to really start not even third draft. I'd give maybe second draft.
Kind of a screensaver. It's like that favorite screensaver you had.
Oh yeah, totally.
Kid. Like you're like, that's such an awesome screensaver, but it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, and we were. I think the thing that spurred us to me and my brother to watch all the Miyazaki films was we were like, oh man, I really love this film and I really love that film, And we look around like Nausicaa was the first one for Ghibli, and oh man, so good. And then a little bit later is Porko, and then we had Kiki's Delivery in there and My Neighbor Totoro because we watched My Neighbor Totoro and it was like, wow, this is kind of boring, surprisingly so. And so we're like, hey, let's watch this chronologically and try to track the development of Miyazaki as a writer and a filmmaker.
We did that too.
Yeah. And fascinating.
It's so interesting too. I actually thought My Neighbor the Yamadas was not going to be as good as it was.
Oh yeah.
I was surprised. I don't really remember it all that well anymore, but like
right. Well, there's an unusual animation style, but it was really funny. Like it was really funny.
Right.
I was
Interesting.
I liked it because like I looked at it like, okay, we're doing this.
Okay, so we are running out of time.
Yeah.
So we are going to wrap it up. So, those are our thoughts on Porco Rosso. There's a brief little chat we've now had about Miyazaki. What is the piece of media that we will be consuming for the next podcast?
What do you want to do?
That's a great question. That's a really, really good question.
Do we want to do something new, something old?
That's a really good question. I'm not sure. I don't know what kind of what kind of an anime mood in this. Hey chat out there. What film? What anime should we do? If anybody in chat has any really, really good ideas, drop a suggestion. Because I was thinking like earlier this year, I still am, because I am always in the mood for good science fiction, because I love science fiction. One of my favorite genres, and I've been thinking a lot about science fiction fantasy recently, because that's wonderful stuff. But if there was a good noir, or even a good horror, because I love horror, even though it's not very easy to do and it's not commonly done very well. But there's quite a big variety of anime out there, and some of it kind of defies genre. Now, of course, we could always do another Miyazaki film.
Twitter bug was saying the new film I mentioned. It was called Earwig and the Witch, and it's
that was done by Ghibli, but it wasn't Miyazaki.
Nope.
And it has a 30% rating.
Ooh, Danny, that's.
It looks like it uses weird animation.
Interesting.
Let's not do that. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna make an executive decision and say I don't want to.
And say we don't want to do that. Yeah, that's fair. Is it okay? Wait. So here's a question: was this the first Miyazaki film we've done?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty good. That is pretty good.
Do another one?
That is a good question.
I don't want to cry. I don't want to watch Grave of the Fireflies.
That's fair. Maybe we don't have to watch Grave of the Fireflies. Okay, that's interesting.
It's like a one watch, and it's so brutal.
You know what? I would be super into Nausicaa. And you guys have seen Nausicaa in the Valley of the Wind?
Yeah, I'd be all for that.
I'd be for that.
That's a wonderful movie. Yeah, okay, perfect. I love it. We're going to do Nausicaa, because that's great, and I haven't seen it for ages. Also has airplanes, so if you liked airplanes, if you liked Porko,
there you go.
You can watch that.
I did have one more comment on Porco Rosso.
Please.
I love the melding between the ocean and the sky. Like, I'm an ocean person, and like some things that are like plane related, I'm not like, but this I was like, oh, beautiful, happiness.
That's funny. Yes.
I'm weird.
Oh yeah.
So, Nausicaa did come out in '84.
The
manga was in '82.
Oh, I wonder if maybe I was. Interesting. I wonder if I'm.
And Gillian Anderson is Nausicaa, I believe.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's the dub maybe came out in '89. I wonder. This is a weird scenario, because I swear it was '89, and I swear I just read it was '89.
I mean, it could have been the English came out in '89.
Maybe the English came out in '89.
Disney redubbed it in 2005.
Yeah, they redubbed it.
Wait, Disney redubbed Nausicaa?
Yeah.
Yeah, Disney redubbed most of the Ghibli ones because they wanted to bring like modern voice actors into it or whatever.
Yeah.
They just wanted to toss names at it to make money.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that's fair. That makes a lot of sense.
I swear, the one we watched said Gillian Anderson. It doesn't say it on here, though.
How interesting. How very interesting. Well, I guess we're going to go ahead and call that, though. Gillian is a very strange name to spell. How do you even start?
Oh, that's right, because Miyazaki made it, but it wasn't Ghibli, because it was Toei, distributed by Toei at the time.
Okay.
Right, yeah. And then, there was some weird stuff with the founding of Studio Ghibli. I don't remember. I'm sure there's a YouTube video all about the history of Studio Ghibli that someone can watch, though. So, hey, thank you guys for joining us for discussion of Porco Rosso and whatever random stuff we talked about today. Next time, it's going to be the 17th of April. We're going to be talking about Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind. Perhaps the first Studio Ghibli film. Perhaps, although I guess there's a little bit of question marks, a few question marks about that. But Nausicaa, the Valley of the Wind.
Claim it now, so.
Yeah, that's fair. That's all that matters. We live in the present. That's going to be on the 17th at 5 o'clock. Thank you for joining us. And we will see you guys next time.
And keep watching anime.
And keep watching anime, because anime.
Anime.